From the strongest special forces soldier of the 21st century to the village's biggest scumbag in the 1980s, who wouldn't be stunned by such a fall? My 3 ex-wives think I'm hopeless trash, and my family is so poor that all we have left is a shotgun. But they don't know that the soul living in this body is about to turn the whole family's fate around. I, Zheng Yanong, was an elite special forces soldier in the 21st century, and I died on a mission. Unexpectedly, when I opened my eyes, I was reborn in the 1980s, a time of great opportunity. But this start is absurd beyond belief. I was reborn as a useless scumbag. The original owner of this body had been married 3 times and divorced each time, spending his days partying and doing nothing, squandering all the wealth his father had accumulated from hunting. What's even more shocking is that as soon as I woke up, I found myself rekindling an old flame with my first ex-wife, Wu Yan. And according to the original owner's plan, tomorrow I'm supposed to see the second ex-wife, and the day after that, the third. What a mess. I lay in bed processing these fragments of memory, my head buzzing. Wu Yan had already gotten dressed and, after saying I was hopeless trash, turned over to sleep. I looked at her back, took a deep breath, and said sincerely, Wu Yan, I've wronged you and our daughter. From today on, I'll take good care of you and our daughter and give you a better life. Wu Yan didn't even open her eyes. She just snorted. No wonder. The original owner had said such things too many times, and she was numb to it. I didn't say more. A man of action doesn't need empty words. Leaving Wu Yan's room, I headed straight to the room where the original owner stored his junk. In a dusty cabinet in the corner, I found the shotgun and short knife left by my father. The short knife slid out of its sheath, gleaming coldly. It was a fine blade. Even more delightful was the shotgun, a Parker VH grade side-by-side double-barrel, 12-gauge, along with 4 boxes of lead shot. With this and my marksmanship, hunting would be a piece of cake. As I was studying it intently, a voice suddenly came from behind. Zheng Yanong, I've made up my mind. I'm going back to my parents' house right now. We're done. Startled, my hand trembled, and a lead shot clattered to the floor. Turning around, I saw a woman in a red wedding dress with disheveled hair standing behind me, her face barely visible. I was scared out of my wits. When she brushed her hair aside, I recognized her. Yang Xiuru, my 3rd ex-wife. Why do you walk so quietly? I couldn't help complaining. At the same time, I silently reminded myself that although this body had a decent foundation, its alertness was clearly inferior to my previous lives. I needed to train hard. Yang Xiuru was crying, her eyes red and swollen. Saying that tonight she saw me enter Wu Yan's room and was completely heartbroken, insisting on leaving. Stop, I barked, but she walked out without looking back. My temper flared, and I grabbed her, carried her back to the room. She kicked and screamed, even picking up scissors and pressing them to her neck as a threat, but I snatched them away. She was driving me crazy, and in a moment of desperation, I raised my hand and slapped her, smack. In my previous life in the military, I dealt with plenty of unruly soldiers. But after hitting her, I felt a bit regretful. It wasn't right to raise a hand to a woman. Yang Xiuru was stunned, staring at me blankly, and in her eyes there was even a hint of reproach and coyness. You've never hit me before. This reaction caught me off guard. Then she swung her little fists and pounded my chest, cursing me as a liar and a bastard, but her strength was so light it felt like a tickle. I finally understood. This 3rd wife was tough on the outside but soft inside. The more assertive I was, the more submissive she became. After finally calming her down to sleep, I carried the shotgun into the back mountain that very night. The nighttime forest was my domain. In my previous life in the Special Forces, trekking through uninhabited areas without any supplies was routine. I followed the hunting trails my ancestors had carved deeper into the woods and discovered that although this body had been drained by wine and women, it possessed innate superhuman strength. Along the way, I came across a fallen old tree, which I estimated weighed about 400 gene. I tried it and found I could actually move it. If I trained this body, uprooting willows or fighting tigers barehanded wouldn't be a dream. Even more surprising, my sense of smell was much sharper than an ordinary person's. Near a stream in the bushes, I could smell the scent of wild rabbit droppings from a distance. Soon, a group of plump wild rabbits came out to forage. I didn't rush to shoot. Using 12-gauge lead shot on rabbits was wasteful, and once the gunshot rang out, all other prey would scatter. I cut vines and stripped bark to make several bow and pole snares on the spot, setting them up where the rabbits frequented, then continued exploring deeper. After wandering for over an hour and setting more traps, I returned to the bushes. And from a distance, I heard the screams of a wild rabbit. Not the sound of being caught in a snare, but the cries of a dying animal. Instinctively, I lowered my body, drew my shotgun, loaded a lead shot, and crept forward in a crouch. By the bushes, a gray wolf was fiercely biting my rabbit, blood dripping down its fangs. It spotted me, bared its teeth, and let out a low growl from its throat. "You bastard, stealing my prey and still daring to bare your teeth?" I raised my gun and kept walking. The gray wolf lunged at me, and I lightly pressed the trigger. Bang! The gunshot echoed through the pine forest, and it took a solid hit to the chest, yet it still staggered toward me. It wasn't until it was a step away that it collapsed. I examined the body and found it was a mother wolf that had just given birth. No wonder it struggled to protect its cubs even at death's door. The power of maternal love is truly awe-inspiring. This trip yielded a good haul: 5 rabbits, a wolf pelt, and dozens of gene of wolf meat. And from the wolf den under a nearby rock, I also pulled out 3 wolf cubs that hadn't even opened their eyes yet. Since the family needed a guard dog anyway, I'd keep one and sell the other 2 for money. As dawn approached, I carried my prey down the mountain. By the time I got home, I was exhausted, bare-chested, with 5 fat rabbits hanging from my waist and wolf meat and pelt wrapped in a military coat in my arms. Wu Yin and Yang Shiru were in the yard, and when they saw me, they were both dumbfounded. Wu Yin stammered, You actually went hunting?" I rolled my eyes in exhaustion. "What else? Did you think these things materialized out of thin air?" When Yang Shiru took the wolf pelt, I warned her that there were wolf cubs inside, and to be careful not to drop them. Her eyes lit up, and she carried it into the house. Wu Yin followed me, firing off questions one after another. "How did you catch so much prey? And you killed a wolf? You wouldn't even kill a chicken before." I was at my limit, having been awake for a day and a night. I waved my hand and said, "Ask me after I've slept. For now, help me deal with the wolf meat. It won't keep in this heat." With that, I went into the house and crashed. In the kitchen, Wu Yin handled the wolf meat with a cleaver, but tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. She was the first woman to marry into this family. She had loved this man and hated him. The injustices she'd suffered had made her contemplate suicide many times. But she couldn't die. She couldn't bear to think of what would happen to her daughter if she left her with this man. Today she saw hope. The figure returning with prey, the promise that he would give them a better life, began to melt her frozen heart. But she was afraid. Afraid that this hope, like so many times before, would be nothing but a fleeting illusion. Wiping her tears, she choked out, "I really don't want to go through that again. God, please stop playing tricks on me. I'm begging you." The sun was high in the sky. After a long yawn, Zhang Anong slowly woke up. Having stayed up all night, he was still drowsy, his eyelids stuck together, unwilling to open. He lay in bed resting his eyes for a long while before throwing off the faded quilt. He stared blankly at the beams for a while, and noticing the dusty cobwebs hanging from them, he couldn't help but think of his days in the military. Back then, the political instructor would inspect the dormitory every week. Forget cobwebs. If there was so much as dust in the cracks of the bed, you'd definitely be running 5 kilometers with a full pack. He got up, put on his shoes, and walked out of the inner room. What came into view was an old wooden table missing a leg, and the missing corner was propped up with a large blue stone just to keep it steady. A few low wooden stools were also crooked, and one of them had a large crack in the seat. Looking up, beside the obviously tilted broken wooden door, the newspaper pasted on the window had long turned yellow and had several holes in it. As for the dust on the windowsill, it looked about 2 fingers thick. Taking in all of this, Zhang Anong couldn't help but click his tongue. Having been in the military for years, he felt extremely uncomfortable at the moment. "It seems I need to clean up properly. I wonder how filthy the original owner was to live in such an environment." Muttering to himself, Zhang Anong rolled up his sleeves, picked up an aluminum basin and a towel, and got to work. In the outdoor kitchen, Wu Yin had just finished cooking the last dish and was about to call Zhang Anong to get up and eat when she saw him carrying a basin and heading straight for the well. "What are you doing?" Wu Yin asked in confusion. "The house is too dirty. It bothers me." Zhang Anong replied without looking back. "What did you say?" Wu Yin seriously doubted she heard correctly. "I'm going to tidy up the house." As he spoke, Zhang Anong threw the wooden bucket tied to a rope into the well to draw water. Seeing Zhang Anong quickly draw a bucket of water and carry his tools into the house, Wu Yin's only feeling was unfamiliarity. After all, in this family, all the household chores like washing clothes and cooking were solely handled by Wu Yin. Although Yang Shiru had helped out during the first few days she came, she was quite finicky and did everything sluggishly. Wu Yin found it unpleasant to watch, so she simply told her not to do any work. As for Zhang Anong, there was no need to mention him. Apart from eating, drinking, having fun, and that little business in his pants, everything else seemed unrelated to him. That was why Wu Yin felt dazed and thought Zhang Enong had changed into a different person. Standing frozen in place for a long time, Wu Yin realized the food was ready. She paused and called out, "Hey, let's eat first. After eating, I'll help you clean up." "All right." It was Zhang Enong who replied, but it was Yang Shiru who came out first. Yang Shiru almost ran out of the house, rushed into the kitchen, plopped down on a stool, and stared straight at the dishes on the stove. She's so eager to eat, but she doesn't even help set the table. Facing Wu Yan's complaint, Yang Shiru pouted and argued, "Sister Yin Yin, what are you saying? Didn't you say I'm not allowed to touch housework? When you call me to eat, I just wait to eat. Who could be better behaved than me?" Wu Yin glanced sideways, unsurprised and too lazy to argue. Once the food and utensils were set on the table, Zhang Enong happened to arrive in the kitchen. "Let's eat. From now on, I promise you'll have meat at every meal." With that, Zhang Enong picked up his bowl and ate heartily. Yang Shiru also showed no sign of politeness, filling her bowl with stir-fried rabbit meat and stewed wolf meat. As for the vegetable soup, she didn't even glance at it. The two of them ate with relish, one more than the other. Noticing Wu Yan's absent-minded look, Zhang Enong swallowed his food and asked in confusion, "What's wrong? No appetite? Just eating plain rice without any dishes? Huh, we haven't had meat in so long. Sister Yin Yin, why don't you have an appetite?" Yang Shiru was very puzzled. Wu Yin, clearly distracted, forced a smile and replied, "I do have an appetite. I was just lost in thought." Hearing this, Zhang Enong was briefly stunned, but quickly realized what the problem was. He put a few pieces of meat into Wu Yan's bowl and said with a smile, "All right, don't overthink things. No matter what, life will move in a better direction from now on. Eat up quickly, don't let your stomach suffer." Although a smile was plastered on his face, Zhang Enong felt bitter inside. Wu Yan's condition was entirely caused by his unusually strange behavior. It could be said that the real Zhang Enong no longer existed. What Wu Yan faced was a stranger wearing Zhang Andong's shell. Of course, since the current Zhang Enong had come here, he naturally would take on his original responsibilities. He didn't plan to say much to Wu Yan. After all, there's a saying, explanations are just excuses, so he intended to let time gradually smooth everything over. As for Yang Shiru, she was carefree and easygoing, though she occasionally played little tricks. But in the end, she was relatively simple-minded, with emotions that came and went quickly. She hadn't known Zhang Enong for long, so she wouldn't dwell on things like Wu Yin did. "Enong, what's going on with you? Didn't we agree that you'd come to my house for dinner today and then accompany me to town? Why are you eating at your own place?" While the three were eating with their heads down, a man's voice came from the courtyard entrance. Following the sound, they saw a chubby, big-eared, simple-looking person walking into the yard. "Wow, it's the landlord's silly son. Perfect timing, come have a bite." Zhang Enong greeted with a smile. This man was named Chu Suzhou, the eldest son of the village chief, and also Zhang Andong's childhood friend. Since childhood, he had been honest and simple, often bullied by others. Back then, Zhang Enong was bold and stubborn, someone who would fight anyone he didn't like. The two families had a good relationship before, and Zhang Enong made Chu Suzhou his follower, while the latter wanted his protection, so they often played together. "Oh, I've already eaten at home, and besides, Chu Suzhou said as he walked, but stopped mid-sentence when he noticed the two large bowls of meat on the table, swallowing the rest of his words. Instead, he stared with wide eyes and exclaimed, "Damn, Enong, where did you get the meat?" After saying that, Chu Suzhou quickened his pace, helped himself to a bowl and chopsticks from the stove, and pulled up a stool to start eating. Chu Suzhou ate meat extremely fast, almost like swallowing it whole, chewing only 2 or 3 times before gulping it down. The original plan was to save the leftover meat for the afternoon, but now Chu Suzhou had eaten it all in a flash. This scene stunned the two women present. Although Wu Yin and Yang Shiru knew Chu Suzhou, but they had never sat down to eat together, and it was the first time they had seen someone eat so much meat at once. "Didn't you say you were full? Why are you eating like you're starved to death?" Yang Shiru, who hadn't fully satisfied her craving, slammed down her bowl and chopsticks, pounding the table and demanding angrily, "Hee, these 2 bowls are clearly not from domestic animals. Wild game isn't something you can eat every meal, so eating a bit more won't hurt." Chu Suzhou wiped the grease from his mouth, and as he spoke, his eyes glanced toward the pot, completely oblivious to the anger about to erupt in Yang Shiru's voice. All right, it's just 2 half bowls of meat. If you eat it every day, you'll get tired of it." Smiling to comfort her, Zhang Enong turned and smacked Chu Suzhou on the head. "Stop staring. Didn't you want me to go to town with you? Let's head out now." A day earlier, The two had agreed to go to town together for a drink and also to find some people to play a few rounds of mahjong. Now, Sung Enong had no interest in drinking or gambling. The reason he urged Chu Sujo to go was partly because of Wu Yan, and partly because he planned to go to town to see his two daughters he hadn't seen yet, his ex-wife Su Ping and his elderly mother. Since the two kids at home both need to go to school in town, and the village is 20 li from town, and coincidentally Zhang Andong's grandfather had saved up quite a bit of money from hunting in his early years. He bought a house in town. Now Su Ping and Zhang Andong's mother live in town to take care of the two kids, who occasionally come back on weekends when they have time off from school. All right, no time to waste. Let's go now. Chu Sujo, eager to have fun in town, stood up. Zhang Enong quickly packed some processed wolf meat, rabbit meat, and wolf skins, and the two headed out of the yard. After they left, Wu Yan thought for a moment and asked, Xiao, don't you think Enong seems like a different person? He's completely different from before. Upon hearing this, Yang Xiuru frowned and asked in confusion, Yan, are you feeling unwell? Why are you talking nonsense? Zhang Enong has just changed for the better. Nothing else is different about him. Wu Yan sighed deeply and said, Alas, I hope so. It's just that something feels off that I can't quite put my finger on. Yang Xiuru was even more puzzled. She reached out and felt Wu Yan's forehead, muttering to herself, She doesn't have a fever, does she? Wu Yan rolled her eyes at Yang Xiuru and ignored her. Turning around, she began to clear the dishes and prepare to wash them. Meanwhile, Chu Sujo drove the Dongfanghong tractor used for farming in the village, with Zhang Enong sitting in the cargo box as they left Day Village. Enong, don't you brag to me. With you like this, I don't believe you went hunting last night. The tractor rumbled loudly, and Chu Sujo shouted at the top of his lungs. Who's bragging? If I didn't go hunting, where did the meat you ate at my house come from? Did it just appear out of thin air? Zhang Enong also shouted back. Really? I don't believe it. I feel like you bought it in town. Chu Sujo really didn't believe Zhang Andong's words. After all, they had been friends since childhood. Can you use your brain? If I bought it in town, why would I bring it to my mom and them? It's not like I have nothing better to do. When we get back later, I'll take you up the mountain, and then you'll know. All right, when we get back, I'll go up the mountain with you. If you really can hunt something, remember to share some with me. The two chatted idly along the way and thus arrived at Dongchuan town. After finding a place to park the tractor, Zhang Enong couldn't wait to speak. Come on, let's go play a few rounds of mahjong first. I haven't played in a few days, and my hands are really itching. Zhang Enong lifted the snakeskin bag in his hand and frowned, retorting, What's the rush? Let's first deliver the stuff to my mom's place, then go to the farmer's market to sell the wolf skin. After that, we can talk. Chu Sujo, whose mahjong addiction was completely overwhelming, advised, Hey, how about we go play mahjong first? I have a faint feeling that if we go now, I'll definitely win several hands by self-draw. If I win money, wouldn't it be better to buy more and send it over? If you're in a hurry to play, go ahead by yourself. Not to mention whether you can win money. In such hot weather, by the time you finish playing, the meat will have gone bad. Zhang Enong was completely resistant to gambling, so no matter what Chu Sujo said, he would never go. Seeing that his persuasion was futile, Chu Sujo looked helpless. All right. Then remember to come find me quickly after you're done. With that, Chu Sujo turned and headed towards the mahjong parlor. As for Zhang Enong, he headed towards Dongchuan Primary School. It was Friday, and at this time, Su Ping and his old mother should not be at the residence in town. Usually, when the two children were at school, the old mother liked to stroll around town. Wherever there was work or help needed, as long as people agreed, she would go and do it for a while. It didn't matter how much she did. She adhered to the principle of earning every bit she could. As for Su Ping, she worked as a waitress at a small family-run restaurant near Dongchuan Primary School, so going to find her would surely be successful. Dongchuan town was considered a relatively large town, with a population almost comparable to that of an average small county. After walking for about half an hour, Zhang Enong arrived at the entrance of a restaurant called Xiuzhen Restaurant. The location was relatively good, just 200 meters diagonally across from the primary school. Zhang Enong stood at the door, craning his neck to look inside. A male waiter in the shop frowned and came out to drive him away. Where did this beggar come from? What bad luck. Go away, the male waiter said, pushing the bewildered Zhang Enong to the roadside. Beggars, Zhang Enong repeated in disbelief. With that look, what else would you be if not a beggar? Go now, don't block the way, or the boss will scold me when he comes. The male waiter continued to urge. Reflected in the restaurant's glass door, Zhang Enong got a rough look at himself. His hair, unkempt and unwashed for a long time, was a mess, with stubble on his chin and his clothes and pants were stained with many mud spots. In his hand, he held a snakeskin bag with holes. It had to be said that being called a beggar with this appearance was not unjust at all. Zhang Yanong was also a person who cared about face. Even he couldn't stand this appearance. If he hadn't left in such a hurry, he would have tidied himself up properly. Without thinking much, Zhang Yanong turned and left. If others knew his identity, Su Ping would surely be talked about, and it wouldn't have a good impact. Anyway, it was still early, so he planned to first sell the wolf skin, get some money to clean himself up, and then come back to find Su Ping. However, what Zhang Yanong never expected was that the scene he saw when he turned around instantly made his blood boil. Across the street, a woman was carrying large and small bags of various groceries. Beside her was a young man wearing a suit and gold-rimmed glasses. The young man looked refined on the surface, but his gaze towards the woman was extremely inappropriate. He kept leaning his face close to her, saying something with a lewd smile, while the woman kept her head down, deliberately avoiding and dodging. On a straight road, the two walked crookedly. Zhang Yanong knew both the man and woman approaching. The woman carrying the groceries was none other than Zhang Andong's second ex-wife, Su Ping. With her pretty face, she had her hair coiled up, and her skin was no longer as fair as before, but had turned into a wheat-like luster under the scorching sun. Her hands holding the vegetable basket were even more so, almost the same color as the basket. Her eyes had lost their former sparkle, and the depths were filled with deep fatigue and numbness. As for the lewd-looking man, he was Li Chun, the son of Li Xiuzhen, the owner of Xiuzhen Restaurant. Li Chun, what the hell are you doing? Zhang Yanong shouted furiously. Li Chun's hand, which was reaching out with ill intentions, trembled in fright at the shout. Turning his head and seeing Zhang Yanong staring at him with a dark face, Li Chun retorted extremely displeased. I say, Zhang Yanong, what the hell are you shouting for in the street? If you're not ashamed, I am. Also, why don't you look in the mirror and see what kind of getup you have? You look like a beggar. What? Are you begging everywhere now? Zhang Yanong didn't take Li Chun's mockery seriously at all, but repeated his previous question. I'm asking you, what were you just doing? Zhang Andong's tone was very cold, and his gaze was frighteningly cold. Li Chun felt a bit uneasy and guilty under the stare, but then he remembered that every time Zhang Yanong had met him before, he had always been smiling and ingratiating. He immediately gained confidence. Do you have some kind of problem today? You're like a mad dog. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Yanong forcefully swung the snakeskin bag in his hand, hurling it at Li Chun, who was less than 5 meters away. Zhang Yanong moved very quickly, and moreover, Li Chun hadn't expected Zhang Yanong to dare attack him. The snakeskin bag, weighing a full 3 or 4 jin, hit Li Chun directly in the face. Besides the burning pain on his face, Li Chun also felt a sour and swollen sensation in his nose. When he touched it, he saw blood. Li Chun, who had been pampered since childhood, had never endured such treatment. You bastard. If you want to die, just say so. Li Chun cursed, his nose bleeding profusely, and swung his fist to hit Zhang Yanong. But as soon as he took a step forward, he found his clenched fist being firmly held by Su Ping beside him. Don't fight. Let's talk it out. Su Ping shouted anxiously. Let go of me. This bastard doesn't know his place. I'm going to teach him a lesson today. As he spoke, Li Chun shook off Su Ping, who was holding on tightly, causing her to lose her balance and fall to the ground. Seeing Su Ping fall, Zhang Andong's already dark face gradually turned black. Facing the incoming fist, Zhang Yanong dodged to the side, and while avoiding Li Chun's attack, he turned and used a knee strike, hitting the opponent's lower abdomen. With this, Li Chun immediately lost the ability to move, covering his stomach in pain and kneeling on the ground. I warn you, stay away from Su Ping from now on, or I'll beat you every time I see you. After leaving this harsh warning, Zhang Yanong walked towards Su Ping. After helping her up from the ground, Zhang Yanong asked with concern, Are you okay? Did you hurt yourself anywhere? No, I'm fine. Su Ping stuttered, clearly frightened by the sudden situation. It's good that you're fine. As long as I'm here, that bastard Li Chun won't dare harass you again. Upon hearing this, Su Ping looked at Zhang Yanong suspiciously for a few moments. Then she said with a hint of reproach, Didn't you turn a blind eye when Li Chun was making moves on me before? Hearing this, Zhang Yanong, not knowing how to respond, could only smile awkwardly. He secretly complained, Damn, it wasn't me who turned a blind eye before. Oh my god. Zhang Yanong, you bastard. How dare you hit my son? At the entrance of the restaurant, Li Xiuzhen saw her son's miserable state and jumped up in panic. Just a moment ago, the male waiter who was greeting guests at the restaurant door saw Zhang Yanong arguing with the young boss. Sensing trouble, He decisively went inside to find the boss's wife. What are you standing there for? Why don't you take my son to the clinic quickly? After instructing the male waiter, Li Xiuzhen turned and pointed at Zhang Anong, cursing. Zhang Anong, let me tell you, this isn't over. You hit my son. I'm going to report you to the police station and have you arrested. Hearing the threat of calling the police, Su Ping also became anxious and quickly said, Aunt Xiuzhen, please be generous and forgive us. Please don't report Anong to the police. We'll pay compensation, and the medical expenses can be deducted from my wages. Humph. Li Xiuzhen sneered and said viciously, Wages? Can your meager wages cover it? I only let you work here because I felt sorry for you raising 2 kids alone. I didn't expect kindness to be repaid with ingratitude, and in the end, you've harmed my son. From now on, you don't work here anymore. Go wherever you like. Without a job, the children's tuition and living expenses are also lost. Although this Dongchuan town is big, if this gets out, it won't be easy to find a livelihood elsewhere. Su Ping was extremely anxious. Just as she was about to plead, Zhang Anong spoke up first. All right, if you want to report to the police station, go ahead now. I'd like to see if the police will take your son away too when they come. Why would the police arrest my son? Are you saying you're justified in hitting someone? Li Xiuzhen argued. Your son sexually harassed a decent woman. Do you think the police will care? Although there were no specific laws in the 1980s, in such cases, it was either settled with money or the offender was locked up for a few days. Of course, the most important thing was reputation. Anyone doing business in the town valued their reputation highly, because once it was tarnished, word spread quickly, and business would be hard to sustain. You're talking nonsense. My son didn't harass anyone. Don't slander our family. A mother knows her own son, doesn't she? Li Xiuzhen said this because she was afraid of ruining their reputation, as the commotion had already attracted many onlookers. Whether I'm slandering or not, the police station will give a fair judgment. Anyway, I've already hit him. If you want to call the police, go ahead quickly. Zhang Anong put on a fearless look, but Li Xiuzhen was clearly feeling guilty. No matter the outcome, if things escalated, the rumors would definitely not do her family any good. I definitely will call the police. But let's not argue at the door. It's blocking traffic and making a spectacle. Let's go inside and talk. Pretending to be tough, Li Xiuzhen, afraid of making things worse, gave both sides a way out. Fine, I'll have a good talk with you. With that, Zhang Anong took Su Ping's hand and walked into the restaurant. He was also afraid of things getting out of hand. In those days, hitting someone in public carried heavy penalties. He had only spoken first to gain the upper hand. Inside the restaurant, Zhang Anong had just sat down on a stool when he heard Su Ping's anxious words. Aunt Xiuzhen doesn't want me to work here anymore. What if I can't earn money? How will Jichuan and Jixia go to school? And what about all the household expenses? When Aunt Xiuzhen comes in, please don't argue with her. Plead with her, for the sake of the children and the family. Su Ping spoke rapidly. From what she had just heard and seen, she was really afraid that Zhang Anong would completely ruin the relationship, and in the end, no one would benefit. Don't worry about money. I'll handle it. As for what happened today, I know what I'm doing. Seeing that Zhang Anong was still calm and unhurried, Su Ping, who was usually emotionally stable, also became angry. Can you stop making a scene? Do you know how hard it is to find a job? If you had any sense, why would you hit someone? How did things get to this point? Zhang Anong frowned. I was foolish before, but now I can't stand to see you wronged. Even if Li Xiuzhen wanted you to stay, I wouldn't agree. Su Ping heard these words, and they warmed her heart, but she knew they had to face reality. Her anger subsided, and after thinking it over, she said, but money is always a big problem. For the sake of the children and the family, I'd rather endure some grievances. Su Ping's words were soft, but to Zhang Anong, they sounded like a thunderclap. He was dazed, racking his brain to understand. Was love in the 1980s so sincere? Or did the original owner have some charm? In his eyes, the original owner, no matter how he looked at it, was completely useless. He really couldn't understand why these 3 divorced women, who clearly had better options, were still willing to worry and toil for this family that didn't seem like a family. Perhaps the answer would surface with time, or it might remain an unsolvable mystery forever. Coming back to his senses, Zhang Anong, to avoid any mishaps during the upcoming negotiation due to Su Ping's interruptions, said, "This time I came to town to tell you that you don't need to worry about money anymore." Su Ping found it hard to understand what he meant. What did he mean by not worrying about money? Just as she was about to ask, Li Xiuzhen returned to the shop with a dark face. Just now at the door, Li Xiuzhen had said some polite words, waiting for the gossiping neighbors to slowly disperse. Seeing Li Xiuzhen arrive, Su Ping swallowed the words she was about to say. "Let's talk," Li Xiuzhen said bluntly. How do you want to settle this matter of hitting my son? Zhang Anong smiled slightly and retorted. Aren't you going to report to the police station? Why have you changed your mind now? Everyone cares about face. Reporting to the police does no one any good. Don't use that to provoke me. With only the three of them in the shop, Li Xiuzhen decided to speak openly. Wait a moment. Zhang Anong waved his hand, still smiling. I'm not provoking you. Earlier, your waiter and your son both said I look like a beggar. I guess you think the same when you see me. So, do you think I care about face? Zhang Anong acted like a rogue, completely indifferent. Li Xiuzhen, with a face full of black lines, cursed him inwardly as a rascal, then had no choice but to lower her attitude. This can't just be brushed aside. If we settle privately, you must pay for medical expenses, nutritional fees, and my son's lost wages during this period. I won't ask for much, just 300 yuan. Hearing the demand for 200 yuan in compensation, Su Ping was the first to get restless. That was almost her salary for over a year. What? 400 yuan. And Xiuzhen, I only earn 20 yuan a month working for you. Li Xiuzhen was immediately displeased and started counting on her fingers. I give my son 100 yuan every month. When doing business outside, one must have a good image. My son's nose was broken. It takes 100 days to heal bones and tendons. I'm only asking for 1 month of lost wages. As for medical expenses, even with the most conservative treatment, including examinations, x-rays, surgery, painkillers, and anti-inflammatory medicine, just ask around. It would cost several hundred. Asking for 200, which includes nutritional fees, altogether 400 yuan, I'm asking for less than I should. Li Xiuzhen's words made Su Ping feel as if she had fallen into an ice pit. That was 400 yuan. Even if Zhang Anong had just said not to worry about money, money wasn't meant to be spent like this. At a loss, Su Ping didn't dare to say anything more and looked at Zhang Anong with worry. Damn, truly a business person, calculating so precisely. Zhang Anong sighed inwardly. I don't have 400 yuan, and even if I did, I wouldn't give it. If it comes to that, I'll just go to the police station. As soon as he said this, Li Xiuzhen's face, which had softened a bit, darkened again. I've already made concessions. If you want to tear things apart, fine. I'm going to the police station right now. With that, Li Xiuzhen turned and headed straight for the door. Su Ping wanted to stop her, but Zhang Anong quickly reached out to block her and made a shushing gesture. Although Su Ping didn't understand his intention, she stopped. Li Xiuzhen walked very slowly, all the way to the shop door. Seeing no movement behind her, she ultimately didn't pull the door handle. Letting out a long breath, Li Xiuzhen, with a stern face, returned to face Zhang Anong. So, how do you want to settle this? Zhang Anong, who had bet that Li Xiuzhen wouldn't go to the police station, didn't take the opportunity to insult her. After all, he had no grudge against her, and she had indeed given Su Ping a job opportunity over the past 2 years, so there was no need to kick someone when they're down. Zhang Anong rubbed his temples and spoke slowly. First, I had restraint when I hit him. The nose fracture is complete nonsense. By the time your son reached the clinic, his nosebleed would have already stopped. Your so-called 300 yuan fee is inflated. As for your son's lost wages, that's even more absurd. Anyway, you're the boss. So you could say he earns 1,000 a month without any problem. After hearing this, Li Xiuzhen was quite surprised. In her understanding, Zhang Anong was just a pure hooligan. So how could he speak as well as she did? Steeling herself and preparing to raise the price, Li Xiuzhen asked, So, how much are you planning to pay? Zhang Anong held up a palm and said with a smile, Just 50 yuan. No bargaining, or else we go to the police station. I happen to be broke, so I could use a place with free room and board. This completely shut Li Xiuzhen up. Looking at the smiling, indifferent Zhang Anong, she was silent for a long time, struggling internally, and finally had to nod in compromise. The two discussed the compensation several times, then found paper and pen, wrote an agreement. And after each signed and pressed their fingerprints, Li Xiuzhen spoke first. You better read it clearly. The agreement states explicitly that if you don't hand over the 50 yuan within 3 days, you'll have to pay double. Zhang Anong nodded and said, Don't worry, I'll definitely give you the 50 yuan within 3 days. Since the matter is settled, Su Ping doesn't need to work here anymore. You can go wherever you want, just don't stay here and affect my business. Li Xiuzhen issued an eviction order. She truly didn't want any more contact with Zhang Anong. Don't rush to kick us out. There's still something unresolved. Hearing Zhang Andong's words, Li Xiuzhen, who was already full of pent-up anger, slammed the agreement hard on the dining table with a bang. What else is unresolved? It's written in black and white, and the fingerprints are pressed. What else is unresolved? I'd like to hear it. Zhang Anong propped his chin with one hand and pointed his thumb at Su Ping. The matter of hitting your son is settled, but the matter between you and Su Ping is not. What matter do I have with her? I need to make it clear. If it weren't for her, my son wouldn't have suffered today. It's absolutely impossible for her to continue working here. Li Xiuzhen's attitude was very firm. I wouldn't want her to work here anyway. What are you thinking? The matter of her wages hasn't been resolved. Zhang Anong was very displeased with Li Xiuzhen's attitude and raised his voice. Wages? Li Xiuzhen suddenly had a bad feeling. Before she could continue, Zhang Anong, imitating Li Xiuzhen's earlier accounting attitude, spoke. As far as I know, your work here is paid 1 month in advance, meaning the wages from last month to now haven't been settled yet. Today is the 16th, so it's a total of 1 month and 16 days of wages. I'll give you half a day's wage for free, so the total comes to 35 yuan. At this point, Zhang Anong changed his tone and squeezed out a smile. You'd better not talk to me about paying on time. I'll leave whenever you pay the money. If you like to drag it out, that's fine too. Whenever a table of customers comes, I'll chat with them about today's interesting events. Listening to Zhang Andong's words, Li Xiuzhen almost ground her teeth to pieces. She couldn't find a point to refute, feeling like she had swallowed a fly, both disgusted and uncomfortable. Li Xiuzhen, who valued her reputation extremely, really had no way to deal with Zhang Anong. So she reluctantly counted out 35 yuan from the counter and handed it to Su Ping. After receiving the money, without waiting for Li Xiuzhen to kick them out, Zhang Anong led Su Ping away briskly. As soon as they went out, the sharp-eyed Zhang Anong noticed that the male waiter from the restaurant was hiding at the alley entrance across the street, peeking in their direction. Birds of a feather flocked together. Zhang Anong immediately understood the situation. Noticing that Su Ping's attention was entirely on him since they left, Zhang Anong asked in confusion, "What's wrong? Is there something on my face? I was so busy I didn't even have time to wash my face before leaving home." Su Ping shook her head and subconsciously voiced her doubt. "You weren't like this before. I've never seen you so eloquent, bargaining the 400 yuan compensation down to 50, and those wages, I thought we wouldn't get them." Zhang Anong laughed. "Haha, before, I was focusing my energy on the wrong things. I've always been eloquent. Look at how many old bachelors there are in our day village. If I couldn't talk, how could I have gotten 3 wives? If it were half a day ago, Zhang Anong wouldn't have dared to joke like that. We're divorced, I'm not your wife." Su Ping let go of Zhang Andong's sleeve, pouted, and turned her head to look at the roadside. Knowing Su Ping wasn't really angry, Zhang Anong continued to tease. "What divorce? Words without proof. We never got a marriage certificate, so the divorce doesn't hold." Su Ping frowned and retorted, "Even if what you say is true, we still don't have a marriage certificate, so we're not husband and wife." "Oh, what are you saying? If you weren't my wife, why would you give me a daughter?" Unable to find a rebuttal, Su Ping had to pinch Zhang Andong's arm. "Ouch. Hey, we were talking fine. Why are you pinching me?" Zhang Anong winced in pain. "Who told you to bully me?" Su Ping retorted triumphantly, then remembered something and asked, "Where are we going now? And what did you mean by not worrying about money?" "We're going to the farmer's market." As for not worrying about money, the answer is in the snake bag I'm carrying. As soon as Zhang Anong finished speaking, Su Ping eagerly snatched the snake bag to look. She was very curious about what was in the bag and how it could mean they wouldn't have to worry about money in the future. After seeing that the bag contained a few pieces of meat and a wolf skin, Su Ping asked in confusion, "This wolf skin and meat won't sell for much, right? How can that be related to not worrying about money?" "Yes?" As soon as Zhang Anong said this, the next second, his arm felt a sharp pain again. Regretting his words, Zhang Anong didn't dare to keep the suspense, fearing Su Ping would pinch him again, so he quickly confessed. "The things in the bag aren't worth much, but the me who got them is valuable." Worried that Su Ping didn't understand, Zhang Anong simply told her everything about his hunting trip yesterday. On the other side, things went almost exactly as Zhang Anong had expected. Li Chun's nosebleed had already stopped before he reached the clinic. Not knowing the follow-up situation, he didn't dare to go back rashly. So he arranged for the waiter who had brought him to the restaurant to go back and check. If there was any situation, the waiter would notify him in advance. After seeing Zhang Anong leave with Su Ping, the waiter immediately returned to the restaurant to find out what happened. After learning the whole story from Li Xiuzhen, he hurriedly relayed the news to Li Chun. Li Chun, back at the restaurant, found it hard to accept the final outcome. "Mom, are you confused? Letting him pay just 50 yuan. If you count the money given to Su Ping, Zhang Anong only paid 15 yuan. Can someone hit your son for 15 yuan? Also, Zhang Anong and Su Ping are already divorced, so they're not husband and wife now. Su Ping is single. As long as I insist that I was pursuing Su Ping, wouldn't that be fine? How does that relate to a bad reputation?" Li Xiuzhen, who had been humiliated by Zhang Anong, was already upset. His son was still chattering on in his ear, which only annoyed her further. "Shut up. Go somewhere cool and stay out of my hair." Li Chun, having failed to reason with her and been scolded instead, left the restaurant in a huff. He spat on the ground, his eyes dark and unpredictable, and muttered through gritted teeth, "Damn it. Zhang Anong, I'm not done with you." The sun blazed fiercely overhead, radiating boundless heat, but in the agricultural market of this town, there was a heat that surpassed even that blazing sun above. The market, lively since early morning, showed no sign of waning by noon. In fact, it had become even more bustling with people gathered for the market day. The stalls in the market were mostly simple structures of bamboo poles and plastic sheeting, with goods and vendors occupying the scant shade beneath the plastic canopies. Even so, the makeshift market was packed with people. Old farmers carrying bamboo baskets, sharp-dressed men pushing old-style bicycles, housewives with vegetable baskets, all crowded together. In such an environment, the noise was chaotic, vendors shouting prices, buyers haggling, chickens and ducks flapping and squawking, all mixed together. If you didn't speak loudly, you couldn't hear what the person in front of you was saying. From a distance, it looked like everyone was arguing. "Why not go inside? Just selling a wolf skin, no need to go in," Zhang Anong suggested. "The market entrance has heavy foot traffic. Selling here should be quick." "Okay, whatever you say." Su Ping agreed, almost without thinking. She knew this place all too well. Inside, it was packed and full of all sorts of unpleasant smells. If it weren't for the sake of her 2 children and the family, she wouldn't want to go in there every so often to buy supplies. Zhang Anong took out the wolf skin, spread it on the snake sack cloth laid on the ground. Before he could straighten up, someone came to ask the price. "How much for this wolf skin?" They had agreed on the price on the way over, so Su Ping replied directly, 80 yuan. The man shook his head, said it was too expensive, and left without haggling. The price they had set was indeed on the high side, as wolf skins usually went for around 40 yuan. The reason they were selling for 80 wasn't because they didn't know the market. On the contrary, they knew it very well. This wolf skin had a glossy, blue-gray coat, with coarse guard hairs standing stiff and distinct. The underfur was dense. A light press with a hand left a shallow indentation. Moreover, the skin was perfectly intact, with no damage from nose to tail tip, making it a top-quality wolf skin. Normally, such a fine skin would fetch at least 100 and some change, but considering the town's environment and economic level, they priced it at 80. Before long, more than 10 people had asked the price. Some turned away upon hearing it. Some haggled, but the prices they offered were below their expectations, so no deal was struck. "That guy just offered 60, which is already a good amount. We could have sold it." Su Ping's lips were a bit dry. She had been doing all the haggling, while Zhang Anong held the final say. "This kind of wolf skin isn't available all the time. Let's wait a bit longer. If it really doesn't sell, we can lower the price then," Zhang Anong consoled, not wanting to sell for too low. It wasn't about the extra money. He was thinking long-term. Since similar deals wouldn't be rare in the future, selling at a low price would make it hard to raise prices later. Just then, a burly middle-aged man in a brown leather jacket with a crew cut walked up to the stall. Unlike others, he didn't ask the price right away. Instead, he picked up the wolf skin from the ground and examined it carefully in the sunlight. As he looked, he exclaimed, "This is a fine wolf skin." Hearing this, the two felt hopeful, and their faces showed a bit of anticipation. After the man had inspected the entire skin, he finally asked the price. "Big brother, you've seen the skin. No need to say more about its quality. We're not asking much, just 80 yuan. Su Ping said this with enthusiasm, her earlier dejection gone. At Xiuzhen restaurant, she had seen all kinds of diners, which had honed her ability to judge people. Whether or not this man truly knew quality, judging by his attire, he was likely someone with money to spare. "Your price isn't unreasonable. I'll take it," the man said, tucking the skin under his arm and reaching into his pocket for money. He pulled out a crisp 50 yuan bill and 3 crisp 10 yuan bills. Su Ping took the money and carefully examined it. Seeing this, the man smiled and said, "The money's not fake. It's the 4th series issued this year." After confirming the money was fine, Su Ping followed up, "Sorry for the caution, big brother. I haven't seen many new bills, so I need a moment to check." "Haha, that's normal. If you get more good quality pelts in the future, come find me at Inghong Guest House. Just mention my name, Du Cheng." With that, Du Cheng didn't linger and turned to head into the market. "Take care, big brother." The wolfskin sold for 4 months of her salary, and Su Ping called out warmly to Du Cheng's retreating figure. "Good thing you didn't budge earlier. Otherwise, we'd have lost 20 yuan. Su Ping was delighted. Zhang Anong, who hadn't said a word during the whole transaction, muttered inwardly. Just a moment ago, you were complaining the price was too high, and now you're glad I didn't budge. Women, indeed. A woman's heart is as unfathomable as the sea. You can't figure it out at all. Thinking that his daughters would soon be out of school, and that he hadn't seen them in over half a month, he said, I need to tidy up. This outfit isn't suitable for seeing them. Zhang Anong said as he packed up the snake-sack cloth. You really should clean up. Come with me. I know a barber shop that does a good job and is affordable. With that, the two left the market. At the barber shop, he spent 2 jiao to get a haircut and a shave. Zhang Anong washed his face and carefully dusted off his clothes. Looking in the barber shop mirror, he saw that his whole demeanor had improved several notches. This was the first time Zhang Anong had looked in a mirror since his rebirth, and he studied himself for a long while. How to put it? Not particularly handsome, but not ugly either. He felt he was still a bit short of the handsome face he had in his previous life. Why is a grown man so vain? What's there to look at? The kids are about to get out of school. We should go. Seeing Zhang Anong lingering in front of the mirror, Su Ping urged him, leaving the barbershop. As they passed Xiuzhen restaurant, Su Ping mentioned, the kids won't be out for a while. Why don't you go pay Aunt Xiuzhen the money you owe? Just then, the school bell rang. Zhang Anong shook his head and said, the 3-day deadline isn't up yet. I'll come back tomorrow or the day after to pay. Picking up the kids is more important now. Hearing the bell, Su Ping thought it made sense. There was no rush to repay the debt. Besides, Li Xiuzhen was probably still angry, so paying later might be better. So she went with Zhang Anong to the school gate to pick up the children. At the elementary school gate, children from 1st to 6th grade poured out like a tide, running and playing in groups. In those days, few parents came to pick up their children every day, and the school had no clear rules about dismissal. So teachers didn't lead their classes in neat lines to the gate to wait for parents. Instead, students typically left in groups, playing and laughing on their way home. If it weren't for Zhang Yanong coming to town today, Su Ping wouldn't have made a special trip to the school gate. The two kids would either go to Xiuzhen restaurant to find Su Ping or head home with friends, depending on their mood. They didn't wait long. Su Ping waved and called out into the crowd. Jichuan, Jixia, 2 little girls, hand in hand, who had just reached the school gate, heard the call and ran happily towards Su Ping. The older one, Jichuan, was Wu Yan's daughter in 2nd grade, while Su Ping's daughter, Jixia, was a year younger in 1st grade. Zhang Anong, who had never married in his previous life, now saw his 2 flesh-and-blood children running toward him. He was indeed somewhat at a loss. From the memories left by the original owner, since the children were born, the original owner could be described as neglectful because of little contact. So he didn't have a deep impression of the 2 children. He only knew that the one who liked to wear a high ponytail, had a round, chubby face, and blue ink stains on her cuffs, looking very cute, was the eldest daughter Jichuan. The one carrying a pink school bag, with twin ponytails, inheriting Su Ping's genes, a true beauty in the making, was the youngest daughter Jixia. Auntie, aren't you helping at Aunt Xiuzhen's shop today? When they came up to her, Jichuan asked curiously. The title aunt was agreed upon by the 3 women, firstly because they had divorced Zhang Anong, and secondly because the 3 of them were currently living together, and the family relationships were complicated. Not helping today. From now on I'll pick you up from school every day. Su Ping casually replied, then frowned and looked at Zhang Anong, asking, the children are right here. Why don't you say a word? Zhang Anong, who was already at a loss, felt a bit embarrassed upon hearing this. After thinking for a moment, he just smiled and called out the names of his 2 daughters. Zhang Anong genuinely liked children from the bottom of his heart, but the original owner's previous behavior was completely unworthy of the title father. He was as irresponsible as could be. Moreover, he didn't know what opinions and attitudes the 2 children held towards him, and he was worried about saying something wrong and scaring them. As for the children, from the moment they saw Su Ping, they had already noticed Zhang Andong's presence, but they didn't think of Zhang Anong as their biological father. It wasn't until they heard Su Ping's words, and after carefully looking at him for a while, that they realized the person in front of them was their father. This couldn't be blamed on the 2 daughters. It could only be blamed on the original owner, who always looked slovenly, with long hair covering half his face. Except for holding them briefly when they were born, he had basically no contact with them, so it was normal that the children didn't recognize him at first. Dad, the youngest daughter Jixia called out while pinching her little hands, looking extremely shy. As for the eldest daughter Jichuan, after glancing at Zhang Anong a few times, she turned her head aside and muttered softly, the classmates at school all think I don't have a dad. Although the voice was not loud, Zhang Enong heard it very clearly. What nonsense are you talking? How could you not have a dad? Isn't this the one standing right in front of you? Facing Su Ping's scolding tone, Jichuan stared with her big round eyes and retorted unconvinced. It's not me talking nonsense. If you don't believe me, ask sister. That's what the classmates say. Su Ping turned her gaze to her own daughter. Jixia tugged at her clothes, her expression struggling, as if she had made a great mental preparation, and then said timidly, the classmates say that my sister and I only have 3 mothers, and no father. After saying this, she paused and then added another sentence. It was Zheng Xiaoqiang from our village who spread it, and later the classmates all knew. Zheng Xiaoqiang mentioned by Jixia was Zheng Andong's nephew. His father Zheng Wen and Zheng Enong were cousins. Look at your cousin. I really don't know how he teaches his children. After all, he is related to you. How could he let his child talk nonsense at school? Su Ping pointed the finger at Zheng Enong. Although children's words are innocent, Zheng Enong knew very well that children are simple-minded. The speaker might think it's no big deal, but for the one being talked about, it's different. A young mind is very easily traumatized. Now that the rumor had spread, going to reason with Zheng Wen's family was meaningless. On the contrary, it could easily provoke Zheng Xiaoqiang's dissatisfaction, and then he might spread even worse remarks at school, which would be like lifting a rock to drop on one's own feet. Preaching was meaningless. Zheng Enong planned to break the rumor with practical actions. Children talking nonsense isn't real. Jichuan and Jixia do have a father. It was my problem before, but from now on, everything will change, and the rumor will naturally be refuted. After explaining, Zheng Enong, who had an idea in mind, regained confidence and said to his 2 daughters with a gentle smile, come on, Dad earned quite a lot of money today. Whatever you want to eat or have, just say it. I'll buy it all for you. When it came to buying things, Jichuan and Jixia were overjoyed, cheering and hugging each other. I want to eat a popsicle. Jixia, who had a personality like Wu Yan, was the first to make her request. Buy it. Zheng Enong agreed without hesitation. In this era, refrigerators were considered luxury items. Popsicles were basically sold from mobile stalls, with vendors riding old-fashioned bicycles, with insulated foam boxes tied to the back seat, hawking popsicles everywhere. Usually, when school let out, vendors would come to the school gate to sell to the children. Of course, it wasn't just popsicles. There were also other foods and toys. There weren't many types of popsicles, all common kinds. Old-fashioned popsicles, mung bean ice pops, milk bricks, and double bar ice cream bars. Jichuan and Jixia chose the double bar ice cream bar in unison. When it was handed to them, Jichuan broke it apart with effort, while Jixia couldn't help swallowing her saliva and staring eagerly. With a snap, after the ice cream bar was broken, Jichuan handed one piece over. Sister, you like pink, so the pink one is for you. Jixia took the ice cream and eagerly stuck out her little tongue to lick it before saying, thank you, sister. It's such a hot day, you should have one too. Su Ping, who had wanted to refuse and say she didn't want one, saw that Zheng Enong had already picked up a double bar ice cream and broken it. So she had no choice but to accept it. 15 cents each, 2 ice creams cost 30 cents. After paying, Zheng Enong asked, what else do you want to eat? Just say it, don't be polite with me. When the 2 children heard this tone, they were already satisfied and became even happier. They exchanged a glance and, as if by telepathy, walked towards the old grandpa selling molasses candy. To make up for his 2 daughters, Zheng Enong spent money lavishly. Every time he bought something, he would ask the children what else they wanted. Since Su Ping's original salary was low, after deducting living expenses, and with Zheng Enong occasionally coming to ask her for money, the amount she could spend on the 2 children was very little. This indirectly led to the children initially choosing cheap items when asking for things. But they couldn't resist Zheng Andong's attitude of not treating money as money. After discovering that Su Ping had tacitly approved of Zheng Andong's behavior, the 2 children became bolder. From initially only daring to buy food, they eventually asked to buy toys, cartoon stickers, beautiful cards, and the highly attractive wind-up toys of the time. In the end, if it weren't for the fact that the 4 of them could hardly hold any more things, they probably would have bought even more. With so many things in their hands, other children looked at Jichuan and Jixia with envy. Some classmates who knew the 2 children came up to ask. Jichuan and Jixia held their little heads high and said proudly, my dad bought all of these. On the way back, passing by the supply and marketing cooperative, Zheng Enong pulled the mother and daughters and said he wanted to buy them clothes and shoes. This time, Su Ping absolutely refused to let Zheng Enong buy, saying that the cheapest clothes and shoes cost more than 5 yuan, and the expensive ones were over 10 yuan. Even if you have money, you can't spend it recklessly. These clothes and shoes are too expensive. Zhang Anong, who had been persistently coaxing, made Su Ping a bit angry, so he had no choice but to settle for the next best thing. All right, don't buy ready-made clothes. Just cut some fabric and get saws, needles, and thread. Anyway, you don't need to help at the restaurant now, so you can make shoes and clothes at home, right? Su Ping, who had wanted to refuse again, saw the patches on the children's clothes and pants, big and small, and finally relented. However, when cutting fabric and choosing saws, Zhang Anong bought a lot under the pretext of getting new clothes and shoes for the whole family. In this way, after spending more than 20 yuan, Zhang Anong left the supply and marketing cooperative with his family, satisfied. During this time, Zhang Anong, who had been looking at all the prices, couldn't help but sigh inwardly. If I had the salary and savings from my previous life and lived such a life, it would be like in a novel. Global prices downgraded, and I became a billionaire. How awesome. In the early years, Zhang Andong's father was quite famous for hunting in Day Village. But there is a saying, he who walks by the river often will eventually get his feet wet. Zhang Andong's grandfather and father often went hunting in the mountains, honing their hunting skills, but at the same time, due to various accidents, their bodies accumulated many chronic ailments. The grandfather passed away at the age of 60 due to illness and injury, and the father died in a hunting accident in the mountains. Unfortunately, he was attacked by a black bear and eventually died from severe injuries. That was the time when Li Fugui's father at the village entrance was attacked. Although he didn't enjoy his old age in peace, the wealth he accumulated was considerable at the time. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to buy a property of over 400 square meters in the town. The house was built early, just like in Day Village, using earth bricks and tiles, but the exterior walls were plastered with lime, and the overall structure was built according to the standard one-entry courtyard house, looking quite impressive. Back home, Su Ping picked out the cloth and saws she had bought for the children, then called Zhang Anong to help carry the remaining heavy cloth and insoles into the storage room in the inverted seat room. The commotion of returning home startled Zhang Liping, who was taking an afternoon nap in the main room and was also Zhang Andong's mother. Throwing on clothes and shoes, she stepped out and happened to see Zhang Anong coming out of the inverted wing. "You prodigal, what are you trying to steal and sell for money again? The Zhang family is truly cursed to have a son like you." Zhang Liping scolded, then plopped down on the threshold and started crying. "Oh my heavens, what sin have I committed? I gave birth to such a disobedient son, and I won't even have the face to meet our ancestors when I die." Facing his mother's misunderstanding, Zhang Anong quickly tried to explain. "Mom, I didn't come back to steal anything. Before he could finish, he was interrupted by Zhang Liping's angry, tearful voice. "Get out of here. I don't want to hear your lies. Every time you come, you talk sweet, but in the end, you secretly take things to sell for money?" Zhang Anong, unable to reason with her, wore a bitter expression, not knowing how to make his mother believe him. Fortunately, at that moment, Zichuan spoke up for him. "Grandma, my dad has a lot of money now. He wouldn't steal from the family." Zhang Liping didn't immediately understand what her eldest granddaughter meant. Zhixia shook the sugar figurine in her hand and also helped her sister speak. "Grandma, look, these were all bought by Dad for me and my sister, and he also bought a lot of cloth for Mom to make clothes for us." After the two granddaughters finished speaking, one after another, Zhang Liping wiped her tears and looked at Su Ping with questioning eyes. When she saw Su Ping nod with a happy expression, she got up from the ground, walked over to Zhang Anong, pulled him aside, and asked in a low, cautious voice, "Son, tell me honestly, where did you get this money? Don't tell me you got it from stealing or doing shady things. You must not commit crimes." By the end, Zhang Liping's voice sounded urgent, clearly afraid that her son had actually done something illegal. Seeing his mother's deep misunderstanding, Zhang Anong couldn't help but curse the original owner inwardly. "Mom, this money was all earned by me through honest means. Listen to me." Zhang Anong then told her in detail about his hunting, selling the wolf skin, and what happened at Xiaojun restaurant. After hearing all this, Zhang Liping took a long time to digest it, and tears fell again. But this time they were tears of joy. Heaven has opened its eyes. Zhang Liping repeated this phrase 3 times. "I've been going to the temple to pray to Buddha every day, and finally I've driven away the dirty things on my son." Hearing this, Zhang Anong was stunned. He hadn't expected Zhang Liping to think that the original owner had some unclean spirit on him, and he was now unsure whether his rebirth here had some inexplicable connection to the prayers and worship. Shaking his head, Zhang Anong restrained himself from overthinking. "After all, since I'm here, I'll make the best of it. Come into the house with me. I have something to tell you." With that, Zhang Liping led Zhang Anong to her room. Seeing that the mother and son had things to discuss, Su Ping took the two children into the West Wing to supervise their homework. In the main room, Zhang Liping didn't rush to talk to Zhang Yanong, but instead took 3 incense sticks and lit them with a match, offering them at the altar that enshrined the Bodhisattva statue and the ancestral tablets of the Zheng family, bowing 3 times devoutly. After doing this, Zhang Liping asked Zhang Yanong to kowtow and taught him to say 2 Buddhist phrases to the Bodhisattva, and finally had him say a few words to his grandfather and father in front of the spirit tablets. Zhang Yanong sat by the table, watching his mother kneel on the prayer mat with her hands together, chanting scriptures. Zhang Yanong finally understood completely. His mother was superstitious to an unreasonable degree. If it weren't to reassure Zhang Liping, to be honest, Zhang Yanong wouldn't have been willing to say that Ba at all. Zhang Liping chanted for a full half-hour before stopping. Zhang Yanong let out a long sigh of relief. Those incomprehensible scriptures just now sounded like a lullaby, and he couldn't stop feeling sleepy. He thought it was all over by now. But unexpectedly, after Zhang Liping stood up, she took down a bowl filled with rice from the altar. Zhang Yanong looked at his mother with great confusion. She placed the bowl on the table. From the bowl full of rice, she took out an egg and handed it to Zhang Yanong, saying solemnly, "I have offered this egg with incense for a full 81 days. Eat it quickly. The Bodhisattva will protect you, and unclean things won't dare to come near you." Wow, there's a second challenge? Zhang Yanong never expected this. Forget the unclean things for now. Can this egg, which has been sitting for over 2 months, really still be eaten? Seeing her son hesitate to take the egg, Zhang Liping urged him impatiently. "Don't just stand there. Eat it quickly. I've done all this for your own good." Taking a deep breath, Zhang Yanong tremblingly took the egg and began to peel it under Zhang Liping's watchful eye. As soon as he peeled it, a foul smell hit him right in the face. Zhang Yanong was about to ask if the egg was still edible, but when he looked up and saw Zhang Liping's devout expression, he didn't dare ask. Once the egg was peeled, Zhang Liping urged Zhang Yanong to eat it, and she wouldn't take no for an answer. With no choice, Zhang Yanong had to steel himself and stuff the egg into his mouth. He chewed and swallowed it, suppressing the intense nausea. The foul smell filled his mouth, and Zhang Yanong directly grabbed the teapot and gulped down several big mouthfuls to wash it down, which made him feel a bit better. Eating it is good. From now on, don't hang around with those shady people anymore. You need to think about this family, Zhang Liping said earnestly. Afraid that Zhang Liping would pull out something else for him to eat, Zhang Yanong quickly agreed. "I know, don't worry about this. I will definitely make this family better and better." Zhang Liping nodded with satisfaction, then leaned close to Zhang Andong's ear and whispered, "I noticed Su Ping had a smile on her face all along. She seems very satisfied with your performance. How about you go sleep in her room tonight?" "Sleep in her room? Why?" Zhang Yanong didn't understand his mother's meaning. Zhang Liping glared at her son. What else could it be? "I'm just hoping the Zheng family won't die out." After scolding him, she continued, "Before, it must have been because of the unclean thing affecting you. Otherwise, why would both children be girls? Now that the unclean thing is gone, you're sure to have a big fat boy." Zhang Yanong was speechless. It seemed his mother was not only superstitious, but also very futile in her thinking. "Oh, I have to go back to the village tonight. I still need to check the traps I set in the mountains." Zhang Yanong resisted from the bottom of his heart. In his previous life, it was the same. She kept urging him to get married, and it was really annoying. "Why won't you listen no matter how I persuade you? I'm doing this for your own good." Zhang Yanong had heard similar words so many times that his ears were practically calloused. It seemed that no matter where you are, there's always a nagging mother. All right, I promise to have a son, but I really need to go back to the village." Helpless, Zhang Yanong could only agree verbally for now.